I met an adult online and I regret it every single day. 9 years ago, I met someone I still wish I had never encountered. I was an isolated, bullied, and depressed 8th grader, and on top of that, I was a plus-sized kid in a sports-centric town. I was beaten and ridiculed daily. I couldn't make friends with my new classmates, and all my old friends from elementary school were placed in different classes. None of us were in the same after-school groups anymore, either, and the scout group we'd all been in disbanded before I started middle school. I was so lonely that even someone talking to me without picking on me made me happy. At the time, I had a Google Plus account, the only social media I could access at school, that I kept hidden from my parents. I used it to check out my favorite fandoms and, hopefully, to make new friends. One day in the computer lab, I commented on a fan art post of a character I liked. The person who made the post replied to me almost immediately. I remember getting very excited when I saw that notification, my heart swelling with happiness. We spent the next 10 minutes of class talking in the comments, replying so much that we